are very honored to be here. We're going to be covering it. It's a summit that's going to take place for the next 4 days. Elizabeth Etzinson, we are at the turning point. Shlama, shalom, and salam to one and all. I hope everyone's doing well. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Monique Show. I'm your host, Monique Oshana. We are so happy to be with you. And as you always know that we greet you weekly with the 3 Semitic words that all mean the same thing. They mean peace. Shlama is in Assyrian, shalom is in Hebrew, and salam is in Arabic. And I hope everyone's having peace. Now, unfortunately, as we've been starting our programs the last few weeks with what happened on October the 7th, and of course, prior to that, we were talking about 2 conflicts that were happening in the world. One, of course, in Iraq during the wedding, and the one in Artsakh in Armenia. And I wish I could say that there was peace in the world, but unfortunately, as we are all witnessing, we want peace, but peace seems to be out of reach. We are far from peace today as we come to you live from 3 different media outlets, or I should say social media outlets. We are on Rumble, we are on Facebook, all live, but this is the second week that we are actually coming to you from X, which is formerly known as Twitter. So we hope that you can follow us, you can share, you can subscribe. We're also on YouTube and Instagram, but we share those programs. We're not live there, but if you'd like to, we will share them. And if you'd like to watch them, you can too. As you're watching today, if you don't mind sharing, inviting your friends and letting everyone know, because we have, as you well know, I don't want to call them serious issues, but issues that we need to make people aware of, we need to speak about. Sometimes a lot of people, you see breaking news, and I know we have news overload, but sometimes when you get a perspective of what's going on, as we are going to have today with our guest, with a dear sister, and of course, the fact that we bring you people that have their finger on the pulse, really, of what's going on all over the world. So we want to encourage you to please follow us and share, if you don't mind. I want to start with the fact that we have a title for today's program, which is called War in the Name of Peace. War in the Name of Peace. When I was in high school, I read a book called War and Peace by an author, a Russian author called, his name was Leo Tolstoy. He also, I'm sure many of you will remember, wrote another book called Anna Karenina. Very sad, tragic. His books are very, very large, huge, thousands of pages. The irony of our title today, War in the Name of Peace, is meant to showcase, and of course, Leo Tolstoy also did that, the antithesis of 2 terms used to reach a certain goal, even though they are in the opposite sense. War and peace, opposite. War is brutal and deadly. Peace is calm and serene. Yet when Russian author Leo Tolstoy named his book War and Peace, It was this antithesis of the two different, or I should say the opposite concepts, was how he described the contradictory circumstances of many characters that he involved in his story, in his book, War and Peace, that was surrounding the conflicts in his era when he wrote the book. Now, in today's time, we will call that an oxymoron, because War and Peace couldn't be more different. And that seems to fit in terms of saying it and in terms of speaking, but not in life. The title of our program, once again, is War in the Name of Peace. It's unbelievably contradictory. With so many active conflicts in this world, we are in the middle of the results of many of those conflicts resulting in war and not peace, in more conflict. Regardless of how we are trying to run towards peace, peace seems to escape us. So it's either we're doing something wrong, or we're doing something right, in the sense of maybe through war, we want to have a peace that is defined by certain sides. What is peace? That's what we are going to tackle today. And with today is one. I'm so honored to meet her. I had a chance to talk to her, and I want to thank our producer, of course, of Cinnamon Production that produces this program, Mr. Frederick Duman, that actually suggested that I bring her on the program. With us today is one of the best in academia, Professor Anahit Khosroeva. I want to welcome her first, and then we want to go ahead and read her biography. But I want to say, Professor Anahit, thank you so much for being on the program. Welcome.
Shalom Aleichem, Me'akartamona. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here. And thank you so much for hosting and speaking about our problems and the problems in whole world right now. It's a really, really important what you do, and God bless you for that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And we're going to unpack everything that you are doing in Armenia and across the world for the sake of awareness and making sure that people will not forget history. And you are, in fact, setting the record straight that these things have happened and how we can learn from them. So I would like to read a short biography which does no justice to Professor Anahit. Anahit Khosroeva, Ph.D., is an Assyrian activist, a historian who was born in Armenia. She's a leading researcher at the Department of Armenian Genocide Studies in the Institute of History, Armenian National Academy of Sciences, and has been scholar in residence at North Park University in Chicago, where she taught the course on genocide studies. Dr. Khosroeva is the author of many research books and monographs, as well as numerous articles on the history of the genocide of Armenians and Assyrians during the Ottoman period. For the past decade, Professor Khosroeva has been an active member of the International Association of Genocide Scholars and International Network of Genocide Scholars. She had presented at various world academic and political conferences. On March 24, 2015, with the continuous effort of Professor Anahit, a month before the commemoration of the centennial of the Armenian genocide, National Assembly of the Republic of Armenia unanimously passed a resolution recognizing the Greek and Assyrian genocide committed by the Ottoman Empire during 1915 through 1923. For her outstanding services, Dr. Khosroeva has received numerous awards in state, including presidential medals, which we're going to talk about and show you pictures later. Today, she continues to be an active voice in bringing further awareness, recognition, and justice for the Assyrians and Armenians using international human rights and laws. Impressive work, as we wish you continued success, Professor Anahit, in your efforts to continue to educate and awaken the people to atrocities in the world. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy. You're in Chicago. You are doing conferences, but you took the time to be on the program today. So it is an honor and a great privilege for us as well.
privilege is mine. Thank you so much, and thank you for your introduction.
Professor Anahit, your research work interests include comparative genocide studies and human rights. As we started, of course, the title of our program, which is a contradiction of peace and war. Now, just having said that you are studying comparative between genocide studies and human rights, that in itself is also an oxymoron. We want to make a note that while you live in Armenia, however, you travel the world as you are now here in the US for 3 scheduled lectures that you are in the process of presenting. We want to, before we go on and talk about kind of dig deep into the Armenian Assyrian genocide and what's going on in Armenia, talk to us about what your reaction is to the most current, or I should say, it's an old conflict that has resulted in the current war that escalated the war, of course, of Israel and Palestine, or as some people are headlining, Israeli and Hamas, the terrorist group Hamas that attacked on October 7th and penetrated into Israel and killed 1,200 to 1,300 civilians. What is your reaction to that?
Thank you so much for your question. Yes, whatever is going on in Middle East, it's very, very affecting not only the Middle East, but whole world. We all know about it. And just forgetting about all those Islamophobia or anti-Semitism, I'm sure all of us, we have friends from both sides, but let me put this way. When we Armenians, we were having a war in 2020, 44-day Artsakh war. Was I happy, or were Armenian people happy when they realized that Azerbaijani people killing not only Armenian military soldiers but also civilians with Israeli drones, which they bought from Israel? Of course, no. We were very, very disappointed and upset. But do the situation right now in Israel makes us happy what's going on? Of course, no. So we know every war, every catastrophe, it's a tragedy. And it's tragedy not only for the people with who it's happening, but also for all the people who it affects. So when during Artsakh war, Armenians, they were surprised. How come Israel, who knows what's the genocide, they went through Holocaust, and Armenians, they were surprised how Israeli government sells weapons to Azerbaijan to kill Armenians who were subjected to the first genocide of the 20th century, which happened in the Ottoman Empire. So anyways, like whatever is happening as you started your program, Mia Gartamana, it's like really disastrous for all of us. But of course, again, the war and the situation in Israel, which happening right now, all those kidnapped people, murdered people, all those like during like few days, the thousands of people they were killed. This is really, really tragedy. And as I said, this tragedy is blowing and it's gonna affect whole Middle East and whole world. So I think generally I can tell all this. And really,
Yeah.
I feel sorry whatever is happening, and I'm very, very glad that media, international media, American media, Western media, they're covering all the situation, what's going on Israel, which never happened with us Armenians when we were having our war. But still, again, any conflict has to be covered, which for that purpose, again, I thank you so much for speaking about the Artsakh situation, Armenian situation right now, current situation, humanitarian crisis.
We have no choice but to speak up, Dr. Anahit, because as you are born in Armenia, I was born in Iraq. And with everything that's going on in Middle East, we can't help but speak up. And we cannot wait for the sensationalizing media outlets out there, as they call them, mainstream media, to wait to see which story will fit their narrative or which story will bring them ratings or bring them viewers. We couldn't wait. And this is why this program almost 9 years ago was launched, because of the fact that ISIS invaded Mosul, one of the oldest cities in the world, as they say, in Iraq, the third largest in Iraq, but the most oldest, as people read in the Bible, the city of Nineveh, where Jonah came in and preached to the people of Nineveh, the biblical Assyrians, and no one seemed to care. No one seemed to want to talk about it. So this is why it's important for me to bring individuals such as yourself, that not only have dedicated their life to fighting to make awareness, but to fight academically. And people say, oh, never again. We learn from history. Where is that history that we are learning from when we see that social media today, everyone is reporting what they want, when they want. And so social media has exploded with podcasts, with media outlets out there, because we are frustrated with not being told the truth or not being told enough. And as you say, the Armenian people for 9 months were starved. They were held hostage by Azerbaijan. There was nothing, no aid coming in or out, and they were basically starved or forced to starve so that they could give up. But who was reporting about that? Absolutely no one.
I absolutely agree with you. First of all, regarding social media, you are right. I mean, nowadays, look, nobody speaks about Ukraine anymore. They just forgot the Ukrainian war, and they are now just covering Israeli Hamas conflict war. And also, regarding the wrong information, you are absolutely right there too. Like, they are just in competition who is going to give the news first so they can have more viewers. Just a couple days ago, we remember when they attacked the hospital. So the wrong information went immediately, who was attacking and how many people they were killed and all those things. Again, just to show they are the first one who are speaking about it. And I believe it was CNN. So, regarding our conflict, yes, you are absolutely right. So for 9 months, starting from the December 2022, Armenians of Artsakh, they were blockaded by Azerbaijan, no food, and I'm really surprised and amazed how these people survived. And they were ready to continue to survive again and again, because the only road, that Lachin corridor, was closed. And though we had the Russian peacekeepers there, but nothing could help. And after 9 months of blockade, exactly a month ago what happened. So after 2 days striking and killing 200 not only military soldiers, Armenians, but also civilians. And by the way, very barbarously killing children, I'm sorry for saying, raping women, and killing all the people in front of eyes of the family members. So these people, 120,000 Armenians, of 99 population of Artsakh, they are ethnic Armenians. They didn't have choice just to flee to the Republic of Armenia. During 6 days, I could never picture, even in my worst nightmare, that during 6 days, 100,000+ people could flee from Artsakh to Republic of Armenia. When you will see those pictures, and I'm sure you have seen it, the only difference between now and 100 years ago, when our genocide happened in the Ottoman Empire, genocide of the Christians, the only difference between that deportation and now they're just fleeing with cars. That's it. That time they were by foot.
History repeating itself.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, it repeats itself. When you don't learn from history, this is going to happen again and again. And
Yeah.
you said during your conversation that we always say never again. That never again is not gonna work, because when genocide studies became just an academia field, just to have a conferences, like right now, whatever was happening in Artsakh, yeah, maybe some, like, genocide organization, they just wrote a letter and something, and that's it. So nobody could stop the genocide, and this was a genocide what happened month ago in our country. Ethnic cleansing and genocide, which happened in front of our eyes, unfortunately.
Again, the title of our program today is War in the Name of Peace. I don't know how war can end to peace, or I know that you have the study of comparison. I want you to talk about that, Dr. Anahit. Comparable of genocide and human rights. Now, when you have a genocide on one side, you automatically have human rights violations on the other. How or who can reconcile this? Or how do we as human beings reconcile when we know that obviously there's going to be collateral damage, as they call them, in this war? As they were saying, we're seeing both sides of the Israeli-Palestinian going into and bombing each other, collateral damage. But when there's a genocide, it's targeted, it is intentional. It is this ethnic cleansing that you speak of, that we have lived up to a little over 100 years. But how do we reconcile genocide as opposed to human rights?
Thank you so much for the question. But it's very, very complicated. And why it is complicated? First of all, we cannot compare this conflict. I mean, there are too many similarities between whatever is happening right now in Israel and in Armenia. There are similarities, but there are different type of conflicts. This is first of all. Second, you know, it's also complicated because of a geographical location of the country. Like, look at Artsakh. I mean, Artsakh and Armenia, they were connected through the corridor. And Artsakh for 1,000 years used to be the Armenian land. Never Artsakh was emptied. I mean, it never happened in the history, no matter what kind of war was going on, what kind of, like, tribes they were taking that land. Never Artsakh was happened like with no single Armenian. This is the first time. Unfortunately, our government, which is not capable to run the country, unfortunately, but about war and peace, they have their own program in their mind. They think that after this war, which we had it, they are gonna have a peace period. This is and the program they called exactly like that. They are going to sign paper, sign an agreement, contract with Azerbaijan, which they are telling our people, Armenians, that, oh, after that we are gonna have a peace period, which is impossible. You cannot live with peace with enemy. These people with centuries, I mean, I'm not talking Azerbaijani, I'm talking about the Turks, because today's Republic of Turkey supports Azerbaijan and calling themselves as a big brother of Azerbaijan. And by the way, during Artsakh War, 44-day Artsakh War, it was because of the support of Turkey Azerbaijan could win this war. Otherwise, no way it would be possible. Unfortunately, Russia, being our strategic partner, didn't do the same thing for us. But as a historian, I said, like, we have to learn from history. All whatever is happening in the current time with our country happened 100 years ago between Lenin, Bolsheviks, Kemal Ataturk, and Turkey. So we cannot blame Russia or any other Western country. They don't help us. We should understand and we should learn from history that we, our own owners, we have to take care of our land. We have to do it. And how we can do it, it has to be done with, weapon, with arms to go to protect our land. Unfortunately, today we lost Artsakh. It's very, very hard for me to speak about it. But you know what? I never lose the hope. We never know. Look at what happened with Kosovo, So we never know how the situation will go. Maybe one day, with 100,000 people, they can return to their land and live peacefully there, but not now, because you cannot live with enemy. And
Yeah,
unfortunately, it's not right now about the Artsakh. Now it's also about the Armenia, because Azerbaijan, when already done with Artsakh, now they are already like threatening they are gonna attack Armenia because they are
Armenia.
interested in Zangezur corridor.
Yeah. We have a video that we want to show you, but before we do that, I know that when we discussed it last time, we had three individuals from Arizona here of the St. Apgar church, very, very concerned. Of course, it was right at the very time that Artsakh had been completely emptied. We showed pictures of the fact that even though the president of Azerbaijan was saying, don't leave, please stay, you will have peace. And then we had someone standing on top of the church where normally the cross of our faith in the church would be, shouting out their takbir, Allahu Akbar. And so respect to everybody, but that is not a sign of peace. If anything, that is a sign of domination and, suppression. In any case, let's go ahead and watch this video and then we'll come back and discuss some more on the other side.
From a village house in the hills of Nagorno-Karabakh to a temporary unfurnished flat an hour outside Yerevan. Annie Grigorian, her husband Artashes Badalian and their children must start over. Everything they owned, they left behind in the rush to leave.
We never imagined leaving. We thought maybe they will give a small part of the land and it will calm down, or that they would negotiate and come to some agreement. But we didn't think that Karabakh would be left with no Armenians.
Azerbaijan says the ethnic Armenian security is guaranteed, but no one here believed them. Tens of thousands of people have died fighting for and against Nagorno-Karabakh in the last 30 years.
The men of our generation cannot live with the Azerbaijanis. Maybe the women could live somehow, or the elderly. When I talk to my grandfather, he says, well, we were living together back then. Maybe their generation can somehow deal with it and live together, but our generation cannot. We saw so many wars. How can a person who buried a son and didn't even see him adapt to living with them?
The family is staying with relatives until they find furniture, but the flat is only theirs for 2 months, loaned until the owners return after years abroad.
I think it might be possible to go back in a few years. No, I hope it might. My husband has big hopes. He's saying, yes, we will go back, but I don't know.
For now, though, Annie is worried about school for her son and how they make ends meet. The Armenian government says it's coordinating with aid groups and charities to help provide accommodation, financial support, medical and psychological aid to help families rebuild their lives. But it's a significant challenge for a poor country that's just seen its population increase by 4% in less than a week. Bernard Smith, Al Jazeera, Yerevan.
Make sure to subscribe.
And of course, the million-dollar question is, Dr. Anahit, will the Armenians return to a region that they've left behind?
I don't know. I wish. Not now, for sure, because to return those lands and to live with these people, it's impossible. Today, exactly, I think today I was reading the news, and Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev said that they are already planning to move 140,000 Azerbaijanis to live in
Artsakh.
Nagorno-Karabakh,
Wow.
Artsakh, in the place of, like, these people, they left their houses, their homes, their lands, everything. I mean, these people flee with one car, with whole families, what they could bring, whatever they could bring with them, they brought. That's it. The other day
Wow.
I was reading this news, and this lady, she doesn't have husband. She had only two sons, and these two sons, they were in military in Artsakh when this has happened exactly a month ago on September 19 and 20th. So both sons, they died. One of them, they got killed. One of them in 19 of September, and second one on the 20th. When they asked this lady, you are in Yerevan now, did you bring anything with you so we can put you in one house to live, like, to survive? And she said, I brought only two bodies of my sons. That's it. This is what I could bring. So this is how people, they were coming. And unfortunately, another disaster happened like minutes before these people, they were leaving, because they had to leave, and all these people, they needed oil, gasoline, to come to travel to Republic of Armenia. And another disaster happened there. It was like a huge fire somehow, and a lot of people, they got just killed there because of that fire. And so
Wow.
many people, like, till now, they cannot find the bodies, because I'm sure they just burned during that disastrous fire. And so many people, at that time, they brought the bodies of their family members just to
That
bury
they
in
want to
Armenia.
bury. Yeah. Oh
Yes,
my
yeah.
God.
So yeah.
What a
And I have a
disaster.
lot of friends, like friend of mine, he says that he told me, Anahit, 30 years of our life, it just perished. I
Hmm.
left everything. And he says, I'm speaking not about the financial situation, like houses, like, about the material things. He says, everything. My father's grave is there. People who were fighting for this land, we left everything. We left them, and we just, we came here. Well, but we have what we have. So, we can be disappointed, we can cry, but we have to be strong, because our history, Armenian history, shows that this is not the first time we had this kind of, like, disastrous situation. But every time something happened, and God willing, maybe it will happen now too. But let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. We have another video we want to show before we move on. Again, to give people, again, just a viewpoint of what's going on right now with the refugee. I know that as the report in the Al Jazeera just reported, that the Republic of Armenia, where from Artsakh, 120,000 almost refugees, or I don't want to call them refugees, but really exiled people that left Artsakh, thinking, that with just the clothes on their back, going to Armenia. Armenia's population increased 4%. Now, how is Armenia handling that? Because Armenia, I don't know if they were ready to accept such a population growth, or are they in a position to be able to aid and support this
Thank you
influx
for
of
question.
migrants?
Unfortunately, 120,000 they flee. But today's Republic of Armenia doesn't help with anything to these people. I think they give like about $200, around $200 to each member of family, and that's it. But prices of renting the houses, they went so up because of the situation. All these people, they are coming. You cannot find any house or apartment for these people to take for rent. Second, and who does all these things? Who helps these people? They're just individuals, people with good heart, they gather together and helping these people. People with good heart, they are sending the money and helping this, group of people, patriots, like, people who cares, like, like, I don't want to tell people like me, but personally me, like, you cannot, like, whatever you have to share with these people, because they are our brothers and sisters, and now they are in very bad situation because they left everything and they are here. And by the way, regarding the refugees, no, we cannot call them refugees, because these people, they didn't cross the international border. They came from the territory of Armenia. Artsakh always used to be in Armenia, and now it's Armenia too. No matter, it's temporary under Azerbaijani occupation, but it's an Armenian land. And no matter what international community or international organizations say about it. United Nations came to Artsakh day before all these 100,000 people they left. Why United Nations went to Artsakh? To see the empty square and empty houses, empty territories. So I don't want to say humanity failed, but unfortunately, as a genocide scholar, I can see that yes, we failed. All the lobbying organizations who were lobbying for Artsakh, they failed. We have to accept it. Because whatever we have now, it's not something we can tell we've worked on it, unfortunately.
And it's unfortunate that the bigger the failure, the more they want to sweep under the rug or put it to the side and distract us with other news, as you are saying, with everything that's going on in the world. And that's why it's important. I know we talked about it 2-3 weeks ago about the situation in Armenia. And now we have a bigger conflict that the media is so busy trying to talk about that. And this is not to say that it's not as severe. Israel and Palestine have been going on for years, but we must not forget there are different parts of the world that are on fire, and we must equally pay just as much attention, because the people of Armenia continue to struggle. The Assyrians, the Armenians, the Yazidis, and in this case, the Israelis, the Palestinians. There's so much struggle in the world that we must have equal attention to pay, because history is repeating itself. And as you were mentioning earlier, that Turkey was the big brother of Azerbaijan, and we showed a video last time of the president of Turkey with the president of Azerbaijan sitting there so silently as they were speaking. Of course, a proxy war there. And history not only was repeating itself, the same characters of history were repeating itself. And it is so sad, yet once again, that you said it is a failure, because we don't seem to be wanting to reflect or to address it as it's happening. And so therefore, we want to sweep it under the rug. But then when another thing happens, history reveals itself once again. And it's really sad. Let's go ahead and watch one more video, and then we'll come back. I really want to talk about your life work and your mission and what you hope to accomplish for the future and what you have accomplished so far. Let's go ahead and watch.
Когда начиналась война, мы уезжали из нашего дома. Ну, ощущение я не могу сказать, как это было. И сейчас не могу сказать, что... Не могу я... Мы все плакали. Я сейчас говорю, я хочу плакать. Еще плакать. Потому что я все оставила.
Եվ եթե Լեռնային Ղարաբաղի հայերի իրենց տներում ապրելու իրական պայմաններ եւ էթնիկ զտումներից պաշտպանության գործուն մեխանիզմներ չստեղծվեն, հավանականությունը, որ Լեռնային Ղարաբաղի հայերը իրենց կյանքն ու ինքնությունը փրկելու միակ միջոց կտեսնեն հեռացումը իրենց հայրենիքից, չափազանց մեծանում է։
Դժվարությունների համար ասեմ, այնքան դժվարություն, որ դա մարդու համար չի։
There's a long-standing state policy of hatred against Armenians that goes back decades, that just doesn't stop overnight. There's no reasonable basis to trust that there will be any safety or security or rights protected for the Armenians of Karabakh. They are actually very, very, very much in danger right now.
Very heartbreaking scenes, of course, and I want to mention that I know that Congresswoman Anna Ishu, who happens to be half Assyrian, half Armenian of California, has rallied other officials in the House of Representatives, to include former Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, along with, I believe it was 80 plus Congress members, to possibly put sanctions on Azerbaijan. I don't know if you have an update or if you know that has gone anywhere, or if it's going to progress, if that's going to even happen.
Well, I don't believe in it, because, every country, they have their own benefits from other countries. So, I know that Armenian National Committee of America, they're trying very hard also, to put sanctions and, calling every time all the citizens of Armenia, all the citizens of United States who are Armenians, to call their representatives of Congress, to reach everyone, every official, and to do something. But so far didn't happen. And that's why, honestly, I lost the hope. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think so it's going to happen.
Because you're saying that already Azerbaijan is looking to relocate 145,000, which will replace the displaced Armenians from Artsakh. And so if you're going to relocate, and then you're going to have an occupation, and now you will have occupied territories, and you have displaced people, and again, it's going to be a bigger mess. So I don't know how.
And this hatred,
yeah.
This hatred, but these people, like before, when in 90s, first Artsakh war happened, and Armenia had a victory, and we had all this land back for us, because these were Armenian lands. So, that time there were no social media, internet, which was very, very good times, I believe. At least we were finding from, I was a kid, but I know we were reading in newspapers what was going on. Nowadays, when you go to social media, even in Instagram, in Facebook, the videos, they are not even related to war or to displaced people in Armenia or something. You see all these Azerbaijanis going to these Armenian videos and commenting, Artsakh is Azerbaijan, we want it. So whatever is happening to you, it's good. You wait, we are getting to Yerevan. It's really disgusting what's happening. No class. Victory has to have a class also. They are not humanitarian people, and they were barbaric, and they stayed barbaric. This is how it is.
And I'm wondering if, because of the news overload, or what they're seeing all over the world, with so many conflicts, as we said, so many conflicts that basically they're war in the name of peace, but really peace is not resulting. If anything, more conflict and war is resulting. So people maybe are desensitized They're hearing things happening and they would just want to kind of close their eyes and think they want to be alone in the world. And that's not going to solve the problem. And that's not going to make it go away. The wars and the rumors of wars and what's going on around us will continue to be there. And so I, like you, don't have much hope in politicians who want to come and tell me that they will make it right, because unfortunately politicians, as we see, all they want to do is grow their name and grow the size of their pockets and their pensions. And unfortunately, there's a reason why the people have stopped trusting the government altogether. And so I want to transition right now with everything that's going on in Armenia. I know you were born in the Republic of Armenia, but you have a special place in your heart for Artsakh. I want to talk about your life work and what you hope to accomplish, this is what, and I want to quote someone that on Facebook, when I was looking all of the work that you were doing, here's what one person who is a retired professor, Eden Fry, had to say about you. Last evening, 12th of October, Professor Anahit Khosroeva presented at the National Association of Armenian Studies and Research a lecture based on her Ph.D. work on the Assyrian and Armenian genocide. Professor Khosroeva is one of the few Assyrian Armenian scholars with knowledge of and ability to use the Armenian language materials regarding Assyrians that are in the Yerevan archives. We look forward to her presentation at Harvard University on the 23rd of October coming up, focused on what may be found in these archives as part of a long-term project to locate and digitize archival resources on modern Assyrian throughout Europe and the Middle East. Your work here, and I know that we have a couple of flyers, Fred, I don't know if we showed them, I was reading the script, but there are a couple of, there it is. And as you can see on the screen, Near Eastern Languages and Civilization. And that's the October 23rd event for those of you. And this is going to be where?
It's in Harvard.
Okay. So for those of you close by, if you're in Massachusetts, in the area, I would encourage you to be there and meet Professor Anahit. But Professor, your work is so profound and your work is transcendent in the sense where you will not allow history to die or be forgotten. And we commend you for that. I want to show your placement. I know you were saying it's so sad. I want to show the pictures, Fred, if we can, of the presidential medal that you received for the work. And so as we show the pictures, please talk about what is going on here and how did you get to receive, and there you are with the military personnel there, how the president of Artsakh, that is no longer in existence, of course, because as the government was dismantled. Talk to us about what we're watching, what we're seeing on the screen right now.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I would like to thank also Dr. Eden Nabi for her kind words, and also thank you for, reading it and telling our audience. Yes, regarding Artsakh, yes, Artsakh always had a special place in my heart, and honestly, being busy during whole month with all what happened in Artsakh and in Armenia, and with always displaced people and helping them and humanitarian aid and everything else, honestly, I didn't have my own moment to realize that really whatever happened to Artsakh, it really happened and it's a reality. I didn't have my own moment to grieve, because that moment when it was happening, the only thing, I wanted to go somewhere far away and to scream, because, you cannot do anything. For me, Artsakh, because I don't have children, I don't want to tell that, but it's a loss of, let's say, parents or the closest, someone who is close to your heart. I don't want to believe that this has happened, but unfortunately we have what we have. And I hope by end of my life, maybe it will be one day, that again I can visit Artsakh and, to see it and to be part of that land. So unfortunately, it's so hard for me to speak about it,
Yeah,
and
I'm
I'm
getting
sorry for that.
emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. But it is the passion that you have. It is the love that you have. It is what's coming out of your heart that your lips are speaking. And I believe that people are aware and people can feel it, because it is not something that can be erased, and no Armenian can be erased from Artsakh. Because if, as I say about the Assyrians in Mosul or in Iraq, even if people, I don't care who they are, will the politicians and the leaders and those that are occupying our land will deny it, the artifacts and the stones will scream out the names of the people that live there. They will give the witness, and they will profess of the Armenians, of the Assyrians, of the people that walked, that lived, that breathed there, as they are still breathing and living, and will forever stand in unity, as the Armenians and Assyrians have always done, to proclaim justice, and to scream out justice, and to hold the enemy accountable. And the enemy might think that he's destroying you and I, my sister, but here we are talking about it. Here we are raising our voices. And maybe some media outlets don't want to hear our story. We don't need them to tell our story, because you, my sister, my professional, my academic, my beautiful, most talented sister, are able to speak the story, as you are doing, touring the world, to say, I will not allow history to be silenced again, or to be put to the side. People will hear Armenia still lives within our hearts, lives in our on our lips, and will live on forever in infamy, in eternity.
You made me very emotional. Thank you so much, and God bless you for your heart.
Thank you, honey. We are so happy for all that you've done. I know you have so much for the future, but we want to, I know you've got an early class that you need to be at tomorrow. You're touring. You took the time while you're in the United States to talk to us. I can't wait to see you and just hug you. Seriously. That's all I want. And so the next time I see you, you and I need to share a hug. I appreciate this video conferencing that we have, this way that we are doing virtual media, that we're able to be in touch with everyone across the world. But I think we're losing our human touch, because I do want to hug you, my sister. But be strong. Continue your work. We are proud of you. We stand behind you. This program is here for you. Anything that you need at any time, we are here for you.
I thank you so much for everything.
Thank you so much. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to go ahead and let Professor Anahit go. We want to thank her for being on the program. We're going to watch a video, and then we'll come back and continue our program. Dr. Anahit Khosroeva بسمتا إقارا قالخ خبا وإقارا وآلها ومنخ ويطلب بسمتا
حاویتون را به بسیم این علام نخون.
بسمتا. I'm so emotional, seriously, because it just touches the fact that it touches the heart, of course, because of the fact that we come from such oppressive backgrounds that you come to America and you gain this human right. I don't want to call it a concept. This human right feeling or value that you didn't have before. You enter into a life where you speak and you're not afraid that someone will be knocking on your door because you said something that doesn't go along with the government. And it's a refreshing feeling, but at the same time, you're afraid you will lose it. And this is how we as immigrants, we that come from lands far, far away, that at one point when I told people I was born in Iraq, people said, where were you born? And I remember when we first came here as a child, that we started fourth grade, I was known as the child from nowhere because nobody knew where Iraq was. And look where we are today, where we are so privileged in this country. We are so lucky. And we've got people that have complaints about how this country is run or how we live in this country, when we need to come together as the United States of America. And yet we see America standing in more division than we have ever seen it before. And this is why we are afraid as immigrants that came to this country of losing America. And as we've often said, if America ceases to exist, where will we run to? For those of us that have been running and running and running, where will we go? Where will the Americans, the third or fourth or sixth generation Americans, where will you go? Where is there another America on earth? And and I know that there is no other place in this world like America, or that takes on the responsibility and the weight and the burden of the world. Now, this is not to say that America is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but at the same time, there's nothing and no one and no place on earth like America that initiates, that stands behind and partners. Look at how they just stood up to what is going on in Israel and stood with Israel, their most fiercest and most loyal ally in the Middle East, surrounded by enemies of the state of Israel, but nevertheless. Now, this is not to say that they are standing against the Palestinian people, but when you have a nation run by terrorists, when you have a nation, imagine, I can only speak to you from my own experience. I can speak to you from a thug, a terrorist named Saddam Hussein, who was known as the Butcher of Baghdad. What do you think will be the outcome of the people that are living under that authoritative government, or that kind of government where you receive a knock on, where you get a knock on the door to say, get out by gunpoint, by machine guns, get out and celebrate in the streets so the world can see that you are happy with Saddam Hussein or you are happy with your current government. That's the kind of oppression, that's the kind of hostage, really, bondage we lived in fear, intimidation. And in the fear and intimidation wasn't just to make you afraid. It was truly, if you spoke, you lost your life. If you so much as breathed when they told you not to breathe, you died. You lost your life. You don't know at what point someone would knock on the door and they would take a member of your family and they would take them away, never to be seen again. So here we have a situation, a history repeating itself in Armenia, in Iraq, as we saw last week with Professor Yaakov Maos, who started recounting what is going on in Israel today, as he did 50 or 60 years ago when his family was airlifted from Iraq, north of Iraq, as he knows as Assyria, during the Ezra and Nehemiah operation, because of the hostilities towards Israel as a result of the Palestinian cause that was that was increasing at that time. So there was hostility towards them. But nevertheless, the world is on fire, and we want to be able to do it justice as we can. And I want to read what's going on in Israel. As you know, Israeli and Palestinian war, more specifically the Israeli and Hamas war, because as we all know, Hamas is the ruling government in the Gaza Strip, and who declared basically war by their actions on Israel, killing civilians, killing people that were at a party, celebrations, and you've all seen the pictures. There's no justifications for anyone to kill in the name of peace. As we said, war in the name of peace. It's an oxymoron. There is no such thing. Now, Israeli airstrikes on Gaza continues today after President Biden visited Tel Aviv, of course, yesterday, and gave the country's leaders and people his firm support as the Jewish state grapples with the perilous realities of its war against Hamas militants. Tension in the region was still rising Thursday over Israelis' relentless strike on Gaza. And this is, of course, per CBS News, and it is dated for today. And warning narrative over what happened at the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza City on Tuesday night, where Palestinian officials say an explosion killed hundreds of people. U.S. and Israeli officials, including Mr. Biden, said Wednesday that evidence shows that the explosion was caused by a rocket fired by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad militant group that fell short of its target, but many in the region still blame the carnage on the Israeli militants, and one of which, of course, saying that don't jump the gun. I mean, I know there's a war. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict has been going on for decades. Let's not add salt to our wounds, because we know that what's happening in Israel and Palestine is going to resonate all over the Arab world, all over the Western world, as we see the world divided right now. Arabs, for the most part, backing up Palestinians, and the Western world, for the most part, backing up, with some exceptions, the Israeli government. Now, with this bomb that shows that, and I know that the BBC came out, and there were independent reports made by many on the American side that said, yes, in fact, it was an erroneous, it was an error, it was a fell short. It was a missile that fell short of its target, but of course, protesters have erupted, and it continues to erupt across the Middle East in the wake of the deadly blast, including in Tunisia, Bahrain, Egypt, Lebanon, and Morocco, as demonstrations in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Palestinian officials said 2 teenagers were shot dead by Israeli forces. The Israeli military said it was looking into the report. And again, just to say that Biden has backed up Israelis to quash Hamas, which has ruled the Gaza Strip for almost 2 decades, but he has urged Israelis not to be consumed by rage, warning that wartime decisions made without careful consideration would lead to mistakes. Now, I want to go to a story that we kind of offered the other day, and we have a videotape of one that is running with this story of basically that the bomb that was hit the hospital, it was targeted and it was deliberate by Israeli, and that is none other than our own Congresswoman from Michigan, Rashida Tlaib. Let's go ahead and watch a short video and come back, and we'll talk about what's going on here.
We gotta continue, stop allowing people to police our words, to target what we say. At the end, Maya and Shamash should be alive. And if we don't get back to our shared humanity, I don't think we're ever going to be able to come back from this. And to my president, to our president, yes, he's still our, well, hold on. I want him to know, as a Palestinian American, as also somebody of Muslim faith, I'm not going to forget this. And I think a lot of people are not going to forget this. And it's not a threat. It isn't. They think we're joking. I mean, I think the White House and everyone thinks that we're just going to sit back and let this just continue to happen. No. The fact of the matter is, our lives are not safe with you or the forever impeached president. When are we going to feel safe? When are we going to stop funding continued, literally, oppression of indigenous communities? When are we going to say enough? It makes me so angry to have to say it, but I'm telling you, I'm talking to people that literally are like me. They literally believed in this party that was supposed to be inclusive of all of our opinions and our views and our political stance and all of these things. But what is starting to get really, really, really clear and very loud is that somehow many of us in this room, because of our political opinions, because maybe our faith is a certain faith, maybe because our ethnicity is a certain ethnicity, that somehow we're subhuman, that somehow we're not as equal to, again, of human to be able to live and really survive and be able to thrive in our country and in the world. It's like it doesn't even matter. And that-
You know, I don't know where to start. I really don't know where to start. But I mean, when she said she thought this party was inclusive, well, maybe Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, maybe you were lied to. And so you need to reflect on your own decisions and prerogatives as to where you're standing right now. Because I know that your talk about being of the Muslim faith and you being of a Muslim faith representing everyone in Michigan, I know that you came out and many people actually came out against you when you were against parental rights in schools. You were against parents having the right to say, my children will not be taught by transgender individuals coming into our homes and reprogramming the brains of our children. And you were standing against those people that put you in office, those people that voted for you and respected you and thought that you had their own values. So in this point right now, you keep talking about me or we or people like me. Who are you talking about? Who are you referring to? The last time I checked, ma'am, you are a congresswoman. You are a United States, an elected member of the People's House in the United States. Why are we now just hearing from you and your anger? The Biden administration have always expressed their unwavering position to stand with Israel and not with Hamas. Not with Hamas. So this is why I question your we. Who's the we that you refer to? This has long been designated, Hamas that is, a terrorist group. Why are you speaking as if these people represent the world or your country, the place where your ancestors come from? They've never represented the people of Palestine. Just as ISIS never represented my birth country, Iraq, where the government without hesitation not only expressed their condemnation of the group outright, but also waged war in both the Kurdistani regional government and the central government in Baghdad, stood up against ISIS, and they are still finding members of ISIS and bringing them to justice. Now, justice has not been served. I understand that to the full extent. But when you are saying we, how long are we going to allow this to happen? What's happening? Is it something that you're seeing that we're not seeing? Where is your loyalty, Congresswoman? Is it to America? Or is it to a far, far away land that you no longer live there? Your constituents live here. The best for what? You just threw your president under the bus. Your Democrat president, President Joe Biden, you threw him under the bus and you said, this is not a threat, but I will not forget. What will you not forget? What has changed that you were not aware of when you were elected to office? What did you think you could gain? Or who do you think you're representing? When my country, my birth country, was attacked, I was the first one to advocate for closing the borders. Why? Because closing the borders, we know that ISIS would come through certain ways that they're not going to wait for their documentations to be approved and vetted. We know that they were going to find illegal ways of coming through. When we escaped, we stayed vigilant to the cause of the Iraqis, even though I come from, and my community, the Assyrian Christian community, has been the most that fell through the cracks and conflicts. Yet I spoke up against the atrocities, but as an American Assyrian, as you are speaking as a Palestinian American, nevertheless, but I feel like you don't seem to have your loyalty in the right place. Speak up as an American. Speak against the atrocities of Hamas and speak against the atrocities of Israel. You have gained a voice and you have gained a position that's a privilege that many people would dream to have. You are serving in the people's house, a privilege that does not come to the hands of many. And yet when you stand and you disagree and you threaten, and it is a threat, you threaten the President of the United States of America to say, I will not forget this. Which means what? A day will come. A day will come where what will happen? Vengeance? What will happen one day? What will you do with that memory? We are all saddened. We all are saddened by the lives lost on both sides. But we have to also remember, when a terrorist group, and again, please understand who's speaking to you, someone whose mother risked her life to get 8 children out of Iraq from under Saddam Hussein. And for those Iraqis that will say, Mona, you left in the good old days. I was a child. I didn't leave Iraq in the good old days. I left Iraq during the time, one of the most dangerous times in Iraq history, where you couldn't breathe without being told to breathe. But my mother risked her life. My father had no choice but to leave as a result of us leaving. And when we left, the rest was history. Had my mother not answered the call from God and the premonition she received to leave, there was danger. The butcher of Baghdad, and I have no problem calling him that and admitting to it, but that doesn't mean I'm speaking against the people of Iraq. We all suffered, but there were more people that suffered than others. You need to be realistic, Congresswoman Rashid. You need to be realistic. You cannot be biased in this. You're a Palestinian American. You could do so much good with your position. You could have elevated your cause for the Palestinian people and not your hate for Israel. You have been known to speak against Israel in no uncertain terms. Rather than elevate the cause of the Palestinian people and what you call the occupation, you have chosen to elevate your hatred towards a nation that is just a nation that has every right to be there, historically and otherwise. We can relate because the Assyrians and the Israelis had conflict. The Assyrians took captives the Israelis or the Jews during Nebuchadnezzar, a king of Babylon. And the Assyrian king Sennacherib fought and won a war with Israel, with Judea. We have similar languages as we do with the Arab world. This is not someone from the West speaking to you as if, and I do have compassion on the children, on the women, on the bombings that's happening in Gaza. I visited Israel. I visited all areas of Israel, on the West Bank, in Gaza. I'm not sure if we were in Gaza, but in Israel itself, entirety, and in Palestine. But nevertheless, we need to use our power for the right cause. We need to use our power for the right cause and not cause. Now, there is another video with what was going on for, of all things, of all people, Jewish Americans pro-Palestinian cause at the Rotunda, at the Capitol, where we have a video. I think, Fred, let's go ahead and show them, and then we'll come back and talk about other subjects.
And the big story tonight at 5, we're following breaking news on Capitol Hill. Pro-Palestinian protesters making their way inside of the Cannon House office building.
And let's take you there live right now as the demonstrations continue. And you can see the crowd there has certainly thinned out, and that's because Capitol Police have been making arrests for the past few hours inside that congressional office building. Fox 5's Tom Fitzgerald has been live outside as the protests gathered earlier this afternoon. Fitz, how's it looking now?
Well, good evening. This started at about noon today down on the National Mall. This group, calling itself the Jewish Voice for Peace, was out here today calling on Israel to enter a ceasefire after it's been defending itself following the Hamas attacks of a week and a half ago. But this protest began to leave the National Mall and made its way up here to Capitol Hill, and that is when things got out of control. Let me show you the scene right now. This is Independence Avenue and South Capitol Street. U.S. Capitol Police are out here in force. Now, the protesters themselves said they had about 400 of their members that were able to actually enter the Cannon House office building today, and arrests are underway right now. We are told by the U.S. Capitol Police that they said that they had warned the protesters to stop demonstrating. When they did not stop, we began arresting them, unquote. The Capitol Police also say that the arrests in Cannon are in conjunction with rolling street closures, so you ought to be aware of that as well. Now, joining us live tonight is one of the representatives of this organization, Marka Bird. Marka, we spoke to you earlier down on the National Mall. Why are you out here today, and why did you think entering the Cannon House office building, disrupting the operations today, was a wise choice today?
We're a group of Jewish Americans who have come here to call for an immediate ceasefire and an end to the genocide in Gaza. And that is in Congress's hands. They have the ability to do this. So we are here to have our voices heard by Congress to make sure everybody knows that the most important thing is a ceasefire.
You say you're a peaceful organization. We have reports from the U.S. Capitol Police that officers were assaulted today. How does that line up with a peaceful organization?
The group in there was a peaceful protest. It was led by rabbis. They were singing. They were sitting on the floor. They were holding up signs. They were saying prayers together for the lives that were lost. So that was what was the plan, and that's what was happening in there today.
How did you get into the building?
Citizens of the country and folks who are in the area are able to enter the building, go through security, and people went through security safely and were able to come together to sing their songs, led by American rabbis here in this country.
We know there was an earlier protest at the White House this week. There's one here today on Capitol Hill. Can we expect more of these?
Until the ceasefire happens, Jewish Americans are not going to stop calling for peace in Gaza, for an end to a genocide. So you can expect to hear our voices loudly until we get that ceasefire, until Gazans can sleep safely in their beds.
All right. We appreciate your viewpoint on this. Thanks for talking to us. We should tell you there is another view on this. Ron Halber, who is the executive director of the Jewish Community Relations Council of Greater Washington, tells Fox 5 tonight that in his view, this group is a minority in his view and represents a very small left-wing faction in their view. Now, about 10 minutes ago, the protesters announced that they were actually ending this demonstration. The music stopped, and you can see right now U.S. Capitol Police officers on bikes are slowly rolling through the area, telling the protesters to vacate the area. Some of them have moved down South Capitol Street. This has dispersed, even though Independence Avenue does remain closed. You can guarantee there are going to be more questions in the coming days about how this was able to escalate the way it did and how these protesters were able to get into a U.S. Capitol office building. We're live up here on the Hill. We'll send it back into you.
And President Biden's on his way back from Israel after pledging full U.S. support in the war with Hamas. He met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his war cabinet. The president also siding with Israel on the rocket strike on a hospital in Gaza that killed hundreds. That strike sparked protests across the region. The White House citing intelligence showing it was fired by Islamic Jihad, not by Israel.
And based on what I've seen, it appears as though it was done by the other team, not you. But there's a lot of people out there not sure.
The president also promising $100 million in aid for Palestinian civilians. He also worked out an agreement with Israel to get aid to civilians through the Gaza-Egypt border. It's not clear, though, when that would start.
Talk to your congresswoman, Mr. President. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib just said she won't forget this. Yeah, there's people out there saying, no, that's not the right story. She went with it. She went with it. She said that's what happened. To add on to the propaganda, it's as if we don't have enough bloodshed. We want to coerce people to say this is not what happened. And you know, these people that are, you know, and I'm getting angry only because of the fact that when you're talking about a genocide, this is not to say that people are not hurt. People are not being hurt on both sides, the Palestinian and the Israeli side. But when you have a conflict, an ongoing conflict, when people are armed, when you have a government on the Gaza Strip, when you have Hamas getting weapons and getting aid and getting military equipment from Iran, from Russia, from wherever they're getting it from, you are calling, and they're the ones that are attacking and then counterattacking. If Israel is attacking, then Hamas is counterattacking. And you call it a genocide? This Jewish American? Please study your history and understand and look up the word genocide. I'm a genocide survivor. Do you know what genocide is? Genocide is when you have a helpless community that is targeted and killed, that is helpless and defenseless and carries no weapon, as they did in Mosul, what ISIS did to Mosul, to the Assyrians, to the Yazidis, to the Armenians, what Azerbaijan, in this case, to say genocide, I don't know if I would define it as a genocide, because Armenians were able to defend themselves. When you are able to defend yourself and you are able to cause the kind of damage that Hamas came in from air, sea, and land, that is a war strategy, and attacked expecting Israel not to counterattack. Now we are at this point where Israel is counterattacking, knowing that Israel is stronger than the Palestinian in Gaza. Now, were the Hamas government hoping that the Arab world would rise up and stand with them, as the world is standing right now with Israel? Is that happening militarily? I don't think so. Israel has always been known. I'm not a military person. I'm not one that knows about, I'm not a war expert. But it's very obvious. Israel is one of the strongest military that is in the world. People look to the strategies of Israel to learn how to secure their borders, how they fight, how they conduct themselves. And yet, this Jewish American that is protesting for the Palestinian people, one of the things she wants to stop is the genocide. Ma'am, I am so sorry, but there is no genocide. Many people are killed. Yes, there is an active conflict in Israel and the Gaza Strip. And it is caused by the misunderstanding or the lack of understanding or lack of peace from one side or the other. The two-state solution that has been being talked about and strategized and offered, one side to the other, is not being accepted. There is, at one point, there are Palestinians that want no existence of Palestine. As Iran is doing right now, wants to wipe Israel off the map. And that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Israel has a right to exist as anyone else that has a right to exist, and they will do anything to defend themselves. So for you to call this a genocide, with all due respect, understand what the genocide, how a genocide is defined. Look up 1915 Armenian. You will probably find a lot more if you just see it as the Armenian genocide. But almost 1 million Assyrians and almost 500,000 Greeks died, along with almost 1.5, if not 2 million Armenians. Over 3 million people died during that genocide. Helpless people that have no arms, that have no means of defending themselves. That's a genocide. Not when you have arms and you can defend yourself. And so right now, the reporter is asking this lady, what do you do? Oh no, that's not what's happening. You call yourself a peaceful organization, and yet police officers were assaulted. Well, all I know is there are rabbis inside, and as you heard her, well, the police were assaulted. Where is an investigation? I know that Marjorie Greene is calling for a resolution or calling for an investigation, and she is wanting all of the videotapes, of all that's going on that happened here. And I think up to a certain point, 120, 130 people were arrested. If they were peaceful, why would anyone need to be arrested? Now, we're so happy that we're living in a country that allows us to speak, but is there a double standard with what happened with January 6th? Is there a double standard to when people went in and wanted to express their view, their unhappiness, their complaint, as they are today, for people that don't even live here, for a country that's far, far away? Now, we demonstrated against ISIS, and this is why this program was launched. This program was launched as a result of the lack of people's attention to what was going on in Iraq. Not just in Baghdad, but in north of Iraq, with the regional government, and in Mosul, and ISIS. But at no time did none of the governments, none of any groups in Iraq, no party, none of the parliamentary members backed ISIS up. They all condemned ISIS. And so this is what we're looking for. We're looking for honest Palestinians that say Palestinians have a cause. And the sooner the Palestinians stand up and separate themselves from a terrorist group by the name of Hamas, the sooner people will look at you and will have compassion on you. But when you are intertwined and interlinked and walking with a terrorist group that America recognizes as a terrorist group, how can you have an argument? There's so much to speak about when it comes to this. Again, this is out of experience, because when you're talking about terrorism, we've escaped terrorism. When you're talking about genocide, we survived a genocide. So neither one of those things do you have an argument with. You cannot be standing with terrorists and call yourself a population of people that want your right, because you forfeit your rights when you stand with the ideology of a known and designated terror group like Hamas. And so, and this is all happening as our country is in division. Now, as many of you are watching with once again, with Kevin McCarthy, with former Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, being no longer wanted as the Speaker of the House, they basically no longer. And as you can see right now, we had Congressman Scalise. That didn't pan out. Now we have Congressman Jim Jordan, and we have 20 Republicans who voted against Jim Jordan. And that was the first time, by the way. It was 20, and then the second round, there was 22 Republicans, no less. 22 Republicans who voted against Jim Jordan. And they're saying that these original 20 were funded by the anti-Trump billionaire Paul Singer, who want Ron DeSantis and Glenn Youngkin. They are their donors. So in other words, they are against the MAGA because of the fact that they are seeing that Jim Jordan is so closely related to President Trump, and they just don't want anything of it. So in the beginning, Andrew, let me see who we added. There was 22, Bacon, Vern Buchanan, Buck, Chavez, DeRemer, Desposito, Diaz-Balart. I mean, I cannot believe what is going on in the House right now. First, with the first vote, 20 people, and then you would think with the second vote, this is ridiculous. Do you know that Representative Pete Aguilar stood up and said the following: I rise today at the direction of the House Democrats caucus to place into nomination for the position of the Speaker of the House the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries of New York, the minority leader. He actually nominated Representative Hakeem Jeffries because of the chaos that's happening within our party. How many times did it take for Kevin McCarthy to be voted in? 15 times? Look at what's going on right now. This should be an embarrassment to anyone with a sense of pride, reverence, and allegiance for our country. The House Democrats appearing organized and ready to serve, stepping up to the plate to serve our country as they collectively request their party leader be Speaker. The outcry of the Republican Party of the 2020 election fraud is still being heard across America. Cries of stolen election, cries of unfairness and injustice. We are still hearing about it. There are still court cases that are yet to be heard or yet to hear what their verdict is. Yet here we have an election practically being given away by the leadership of the House. We have an opportunity to have a House Speaker. From one side, we have President Donald Trump continuing the people's fight outside of office, paying dearly, sacrificing his life and his reputation and his future, continuing to serve without compromising. But on the other hand, what do we have in the House? We have a division in the House from the elite and the entitled. The Republicans letting a great opportunity of leadership slip away from their hands. This is what it means to have a house divided. And what do they say about a house divided? A house divided will not stand. We will not be able to withstand this. You can't build a house from one side and demolish it with your other hand on the other side. Republican is one party, but we're divided. Now, I know people will argue with me, but we have division of four. There are four sides currently to the Republican Party. We're sabotaging our own victory. We're sabotaging our own leadership. This is exactly what we're witnessing. I know this has become a cliche, but I want to ask the people in Congress who are going on their Twitter accounts or X accounts and social media accounts and laughing and saying, yeah, I didn't vote for Jim Jordan. Really? That's how you unite your party? So I want to ask you, do you really know who you are working for? Do you know who you are serving? Elections have consequences. Maybe you know something we don't. Maybe you know that you're going to get reelected somehow or another. I don't know. Maybe you know something that the rest of we the people don't know. So when we the people blame them, who's them? The people that are right now taking advantage of this chaos in the House and saying, we want to nominate our leader. And I know that there were reports that says there are Republicans that are actually negotiating with the Democrats to have a coalition of a uniparty. And you know what that would mean? That the Democrats would have equal right or equal power to call anyone they want. So they would have equal power. Can you believe that? When they can have equal power to subpoena anybody they want. How are we going to let that slip from out of our hands? So when we start blaming them, we need to start, we the people, we need to start understanding what time it is. You know what time it is? It's reflection time. It's mirror time. Not Miller time, but mirror time. We need to start looking in the mirror. This is crazy. Look at the social media and how frustrated people are. But do you think the people that are serving us care? No. I could understand the Democrats being happy about it. How can the Democrats stand so united? And we, the party of social justice and everything we stand for, stand divided. Can we come together and agree to disagree to get at least Jim Jordan elected? You know he's a good man. Everyone knows up until the point where President Trump endorsed him. As soon as President Trump endorsed him, a lot of people ran away. How much longer can we keep this up, do you think? Before so many people, as I'm seeing on Twitter, saying, I'm done with the Republican Party, I'm going independent. And it's not just in the Republican Party. We all saw RFK, Robert Kennedy Jr., just turned independent. He switched from D to I. So this country is divided. This country is coming to terms with what's going on, and people are afraid, people are concerned, people are regrouping, and people are reconsidering. And it's sad to say that with everything that's going on outside of the country, we find that this is where we are today. So we pray for our country. We pray for our party, both parties, Democrat, as I've always said, Democrats, Republican, and you know it's not a two-party system anymore. Just like there is no mainstream media anymore, because we've got thousands of podcasts out there speaking and reporting the news right from where is happening. And so everything's being redefined in America. America is being redefined. And so where we land, it's up in the air. Where we land, it's scary. It's scary for people like us that have run from other countries to come to America. It scares us. It scares us all as Americans. And I hope we can overcome this. But, you know, who am I? But one person. But then through one man, sin entered into humanity, into life. Through another man, whose name was Jesus, humanity was saved. And so I believe in that one man that saved all of humanity and became the salvation for all. And I hope that God will see America, and I hope that America will recognize God once again and say, Lord, we come to you. We have sinned. Forgive us. So I hope that we can be salvaged before it is too late. And with that, I want to thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Mona K Show, of course, everything Mona K Show, on Facebook, Rumble, X, Instagram, YouTube. We need followers, and share and spread the word. Thank you so much for joining us. We bid you shlama.
Years from now, some of them may look back and ask themselves whether they've made the right choice, whether they've made the most of the opportunities they've been given. Together, we have the same mission. Over the course of your life, you will find that things are not always fair. You will find that things happen to you that you do not deserve and that are not always warranted. But you have to put your head down and fight, fight, fight. Never, ever, ever give up. Don't give in, don't back down, and never stop doing what you know is right. Nothing worth doing ever, ever, ever came easy. And the more righteous your fight, the more opposition that you will face. In your hearts are inscribed the values of service, sacrifice, and devotion. Now you must go forth into the world and turn your hopes and dreams into action. America has always been the land of dreams because America is a nation of true believers. When the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth, they prayed. When the founders wrote the Declaration of Independence, they invoked our Creator 4 times. Because in America, we don't worship government, we worship God. It is why our currency proudly declares, "In God we trust." And it's why we proudly proclaim that we are one nation under God. The story of America is the story of an adventure that began with deep faith, big dreams, and humble beginnings. The next generation of American leaders never, ever give up. There'll be times in your life you'll want to quit. Never quit. Never stop fighting for what you believe in and for the people who care about you. Carry yourself with dignity and pride. Demand the best from yourself. The more people tell you it's not possible, that it can't be done, the more you should be absolutely determined to prove them wrong. Treat the word impossible as nothing more than motivation. Relish the opportunity to be an outsider. The more that a broken system tells you that you're wrong, the more certain you should be that you must keep pushing ahead. You must keep pushing forward. And always have the courage to be yourself. America is better when people put their faith into action. Pray to God and follow His teachings. Today, each of you begins a new chapter as well. When your story goes from here, it will be defined by your vision, your perseverance, and your grit. You will build a future where we have the courage to chase our dreams no matter what the cynics and the doubters have to say. You will have the confidence to speak the hopes in your hearts and to express the love that stirs your souls. As long as you have pride in your beliefs, courage in your convictions, and faith in God, then you will not fail. As long as America remains true to its values, loyal to its citizens, and devoted to its Creator, then our best days are yet to come. May God bless the class of 2017. May God bless the United States of America. And I just want to let you know that God blesses you. And I want to just say, you are special in every way. God bless you, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.
America Fest. So we are very honored to be here. We're going to be covering it. It's a summit that's going to take place for the next 4 days.